The rain pounded against the window like 1,000 tiny fists as Maya stared at the rejection email on her screen, the 37th one this month. Her trembling finger hovered over the delete button, but instead, she closed her laptop and pressed her forehead against the cool glass. Outside, the city lights blurred through her tears, each one representing a dream that seemed to be slipping further away with every "we regret to inform you" that filled her inbox. If you're feeling that weight of rejection or failure right now, I want you to stay with me through this story. By the end, you'll understand why that one extra attempt might be the difference between a life of regret and everything you've ever wanted. If this resonates with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories that might just change your perspective when you need it most. Maya hadn't always been this close to giving up. 3 years ago, she'd walked out of her college graduation ceremony with her screenplay tucked under her arm and fire in her eyes. Hollywood was waiting, and she was certain her vision would light up screens across the world. But 37 rejections later, that fire had dwindled to barely an ember. Maybe Dad was right, she whispered to the empty apartment. Maybe some dreams are just that, dreams. The apartment she shared with her roommate Elijah was modest, tucked away in a forgotten corner of Los Angeles. It wasn't the glamorous life she'd imagined when she'd packed her bags and left her small Midwestern town, promising her skeptical father she'd prove him wrong. Elijah found her like that an hour later, still staring out the window, her coffee gone cold beside her. "Another one?" he asked, dropping his backpack by the door. The sound of his keys hitting the bowl was painfully familiar, a daily reminder that life went on, even when your dreams seemed to be dying. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. Elijah, a musician who understood rejection better than most, sat beside her. "You know what my grandfather used to tell me? The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time." Maya gave him a weak smile. Thomas Edison, right? The guy who failed 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. 1,001 times, Elijah corrected. It's always that extra attempt that makes the difference. But Maya wasn't in the mood for inspirational quotes. "I've tried, Eli. I've rewritten, revised, pitched, and begged. I'm tired of hearing no. So what's your plan? Give up? Go back to Ohio and tell your dad he was right? Work at the insurance company like you wanted?" The thought made Maya's stomach turn. Her father's voice echoed in her head. "Creative careers are for people who can afford to fail, Maya. We're not those people." "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe I need to be realistic." Elijah stood up abruptly. "Get dressed." "What?" "What?" "Because I'm not letting you give up tonight. We're going out." Maya protested, but 30 minutes later, she found herself in a small, dimly lit theater on the outskirts of the city. The kind of place where independent filmmakers showcase their work before they became household names, or before they gave up and went home. "Why are we here?" Maya whispered as they found seats near the back. "Because sometimes you need to remember why you started in the first place." The lights dimmed, and for the next 2 hours, Maya was transported. The film wasn't perfect, the budget constraints were obvious, and some of the dialogue felt forced. But there was something raw and honest about it that made her heart ache. It reminded her of her own screenplay, the one that had been rejected 37 times. As the credits rolled, Elijah nudged her. "Stay for the Q&A." The director who walked onto the stage wasn't what Maya expected. She was young, maybe only a few years older than Maya herself, with tired eyes but an infectious smile. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "This film took 5 years of my life, 63 rejections, and maxing out 3 credit cards." Maya sat up straighter. "There were at least a dozen times I nearly gave up," the director continued. "But each time, I decided to try just once more. And that's the only reason I'm standing here tonight." After the Q&A, Elijah somehow managed to get them invited to a small gathering at a nearby bar where the cast and crew were celebrating. Maya found herself face to face with the director, Jessica Lin. "Your film was incredible," Maya said, trying not to sound as starstruck as she felt. Jessica smiled. "Thank you. It's still surreal to hear people say that after so many people told me it would never work." 63 rejections? Maya couldn't help asking. 64, actually. I stopped counting for a while because it was too depressing. Jessica took a sip of her drink. What about you? You're not just a film enthusiast, are you? I can see it in your eyes. You're one of us. Maya hesitated, then admitted, I'm a screenwriter. We're trying to be. Tough road. Jessica nodded. How many rejections so far? 37. Jessica laughed. Amateur. Come talk to me when you hit 50. There was something liberating about the way Jessica spoke about failure. Not as a final verdict, but as a rite of passage. By the end of the night, Maya had not only gained a new perspective, but also a mentor. Jessica asked to read her screenplay, not promising anything, but offering something Maya had been missing, a chance. The next morning, Maya woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. She opened her laptop, created a new document, and began to write. Not a revision of her rejected screenplay, but something new, a story about resilience, about the space between giving up and breaking through. Days turned into weeks. Maya wrote during her lunch breaks at the coffee shop where she worked, late into the night, and in the early hours of the morning. The story poured out of her, fueled by her own struggles and the newfound belief that perhaps failure wasn't the end, but a necessary part of the journey. Elijah watched her transformation with quiet pride, offering coffee and encouragement when needed, giving her space when she was in the flow. And when she finally typed the Yindi at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, he was the first person she called despite the hour. It's done, she said, her voice hoarse from exhaustion but vibrating with excitement. I never doubted you, he replied, his voice thick with sleep but genuine. The next day, Jessica read the new screenplay. Her feedback was honest. There were issues with the third act, some of the dialogue needed work, but her overall assessment gave Maya chills. This is it, Jessica said. This is the one that's going to open doors for you. Together, they refined the screenplay. Jessica introduced Maya to people in the industry, not big names, but people who were climbing the ladder, just like them, people who understood the value of perseverance. And then came another rejection, and another, and another. By the time Maya received her 15th rejection for the new screenplay, she was ready to throw in the towel again. She sat in the same spot by the window where months earlier she had nearly given up, but this time, the rain outside was a gentle patter rather than an angry assault. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Remember, it's always that one extra try. Maya took a deep breath and sent the screenplay to one more production company, a small, independent outfit that Jessica had mentioned in passing. She sent it without expectations, without the desperate hope that had accompanied her earlier submissions. She sent it because not sending it would mean giving up, and she wasn't ready to do that yet. 3 days later, she got a call. Is this Maya Chen? A voice asked. Yes, this is she. This is Daniel Reeves from Horizon Films. We received your screenplay, and we'd like to discuss it further. Maya's heart stopped. You liked it? We more than liked it, Miss Chen. We think it has potential. It needs work, of course, but there's something there. Something real. The meeting with Horizon Films wasn't what Maya had imagined her big break would be like. There was no champagne, no immediate offer to produce her film with an A-list cast. Instead, there was a small office with mismatched furniture, 3 passionate producers who asked tough questions, and a contract for a development deal that paid just enough for Maya to reduce her hours at the coffee shop. But it was a start, a real start. The development process was grueling. Maya rewrote scenes, cut characters she loved, and sometimes felt like she was dismantling her own soul. There were arguments, compromises, and nights when she questioned whether this was any better than Rejection. It is, Jessica assured her during one particularly difficult week. Trust me, having your word challenged is painful, but it's how you grow. And it's a hell of a lot better than being ignored. 6 months into development, Horizon Films secured partial funding for the project. It wasn't enough to make the film Maya had originally envisioned, but it was enough to make a film. Her film. Production began in the fall. Maya was on set every day, watching her words come to life, learning the 1,000 ways a screenplay transforms when it meets reality. Some changes broke her heart. Others revealed depths to her story she hadn't recognized herself. Elijah visited the set whenever he could, bringing coffee and his unwavering belief in her. See, he'd say, "One more try." The film wrapped just before Christmas. The editing process stretched through winter and into spring. Maya watched cut after cut, seeing her vision refined, sharpened, sometimes altered in ways she hadn't expected. It was a collaboration now, no longer solely hers, and learning to embrace that was its own challenge. And then, almost 2 years after that rainy night when she'd nearly given up, Maya sat in a darkened theater at a small film festival, watching her story unfold on screen. It wasn't perfect, no film ever is, but it was real, and it was hers, and when the credits rolled and her name appeared, the applause that followed was the sweetest sound she'd ever heard. The film didn't win any major awards at the festival, but it was noticed. Reviews were mixed but encouraging. A distributor expressed interest. Doors that had once been firmly closed began to crack open. On the night after the festival ended, Maya found herself back at her apartment, sitting by the same window where her journey had taken its crucial turn. Elijah joined her, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. To perseverance, he toasted. To one more try, she countered, clinking her glass against his. As they sipped their champagne, Maya's phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from one of the major studios that had rejected her original screenplay. They'd seen her film at the festival and wanted to discuss future projects. Maya showed the email to Elijah, who grinned. Funny how success changes people's perspectives, isn't it? It's not even success yet, Maya said. Just a small independent film that a handful of people have seen. But it exists, Elijah pointed out. Because you didn't give up. Maya nodded, thinking of all the moments when giving up had seemed like the only rational choice. The rejections, the doubts, the financial strain, the nights of questioning her own talent and purpose. If she had surrendered to any of those moments, she wouldn't be sitting here now, champagne in hand, and a future unfolding before her. You know, she said thoughtfully, I used to think that quote about trying one more time was just something people said to make failure feel less terrible. But now I understand it's not about making failure feel better. It's about recognizing that failure is just part of the process, not the end of it. Elijah raised his glass again. To the process, then? To the process, Maya agreed. The next morning, Maya woke up early. She made coffee, opened her laptop, and began to write again. Not because she had to, not because success was guaranteed, but because this was who she was now, someone who understood that giving up was the only true failure, and that the next attempt might always be the one that changes everything. As the sun rose over Los Angeles, casting golden light across her keyboard, Maya thought about all the people out there facing their own 37th rejection, standing at their own crossroads between perseverance and surrender. She hoped they would choose to try just once more, because that's where the magic happens, not in the absence of failure, but in the decision to move beyond it, not in avoiding rejection, but in continuing despite it, not in the guarantee of success, but in the courage to pursue it even when it seems impossible. And as Maya's fingers flew across the keys, bringing new worlds and characters to life, she knew with absolute certainty that our greatest weakness truly does lie in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. If this story resonated with you today, remember that your journey isn't over until you decide it is. That project you've been thinking of abandoning, that dream you've started to question, maybe it just needs one more attempt. Like this video if it spoke to you, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us of what we're capable of when we refuse to give up. Your breakthrough might be closer than you think.